Yo, what in the actual did I just watch? So as you could probably tell, I just got done watching Stranger Things season 5, and boy oh boy do we have a lot to discuss. Now I remember a couple hundred years ago when season 4 had released, and I literally could not wait to get on with this final installment of the show. Depending on who you ask, some found season 4 to be their favorite and others found it to be mediocre. I personally loved season 4, and although I would give the best writing to the first, the sheer vibes and memories created by that previous season were unlike any other. I mean, come on, I know I'm not the only one who has running up that hill stuck in their head since 2022. And with the way it ended, it was arguably one of the most craziest cliffhangers to have to wait such a long time for. And speaking about how season 4 ended, I want to start off by discussing what I kind of disliked going into season 5. So let's get this straight. At the very end of season 4, we essentially see the world begin to collide with the underground. I mean, we literally had Hawkins ripple in half, with it being hinted that Vecna was in and now ready to take over the world above. So realistically, I thought season 5 would have to pick up right where it left off. But to my surprise, this was not the case whatsoever. To my knowledge, we actually got a year-long time skip with the giant ripple throughout Hawkins being patched up with metal, and hell, even kids sliding down it like shit's all holly jolly. Now, I get that it would be difficult to continue right off the bat from where season 4 ended, but like, come on, that kind of felt cheap to me, and I wish they could have chosen a better and more realistic way of transitioning from that insane ending. But then again, maybe their mistake was ending it like that in the first place all the way back in season 4, since every season of Stranger Things typically begins with a moderate time jump to indicate a new chapter in these kids' lives. Another point I'm sure you guys have heard 1,000 times, but I'll still briefly mention, is the age of the actors. So by now the OG group is still in high school and are around the age of 17 to 18. In my opinion, they tend to look a little older than they actually are, which sort of threw off the realism of them being in high school. However, for other characters like Steve and Robin, they've barely appeared to age, which didn't really make them look older than they actually are. But speaking of high school, right off the bat, I found the bullies to be extremely cringe and so stereotypical. It would be like myself writing what I think a jock acted like back in the 1980s. The typical Disney Channel comebacks and all that, when I myself never even lived in that time period. I don't know, maybe this is how they acted back then, but still, you could really tell the acting wasn't all there from them, and the antagonistic chemistry between the bullies and Henderson was really fake. And speaking of Dustin, I don't know if it's just me, but his iconic dynamic with Steve was really absent in this part of the season. And I can only recall maybe a few moments where we got some good conversations between them, but then again, for the most part, they've kind of been on rocky terms. And I hope that the last 4 episodes will give us vibes of their OG relationship. Moving on, I found the overall plot of these 4 episodes to be very repetitive to that of the last season. The whole trying to figure out which kid Vecna would choose next reminded me too much of last season when Vecna was killing people one by one as the group would try to prevent who was next. And that was the main reason why, in my opinion, these episodes sort of felt like a part 2 to season 4 rather than a new season overall. And of course, I'm not stupid, I know all these seasons have been linked to one another somehow, with Vecna being behind the scenes all along, but still, every season has had its own feel or vibe to it, and this kind of blends in a little too much with its prior season. And talking about the kids, I'm kind of on the edge of whether or not having Holly be such an important character this season was needed or good. Don't get me wrong, I think the actor did a pretty good job at portraying the character, but I think I would have rather seen Max more than her overall. And this is mostly considering the fact that Max was really only present in episode 4 when we could have had her involved more in others. Her character is probably the reason as to why those first few episodes felt empty to me, and I don't know why they would just save her for the remaining parts of the season. But honestly, the more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't just a Max thing. It's kind of a pattern across the entire cast this season. Like, so many characters feel like they're floating around waiting for something to happen. And it gave me the exact same vibe as when you're playing a story-driven game, but you accidentally wander too far from the main mission. Everyone is just there, doing side quests, existing, and not in the fun RPG way. Take Lucas, for example. Like, the dude is clearly dealing with something internally, but the season keeps hinting at it and then immediately switching focus to something else. Like the writers loaded the gun but forgot to pull the trigger. And as for Mike, every time he talks, it feels like he's trying to unlock Will's hidden route, but the dialogue option just isn't popping up yet. I'm hoping the second half finally lets him cook, because right now he's basically emotional furniture. Even Hopper and Joyce, who usually carry half the emotional weight of the show on their backs, felt weirdly sidelined. They had moments, but nothing that really hit that old school Stranger Things magic where you feel like your soul is being ripped apart and stitched back together in the same scene. And I get it, we're early in the season, they're setting up their arcs, but it's like, damn, I wish they'd give us more meat to chew on in these first 4 episodes instead of waiting until the back half. But maybe that's the point. Maybe they're saving all the heavy emotional payoffs for the finale stretch, which low-key terrifies me because that means we're probably about to get cooked alive emotionally. And lastly, for the negatives, I'm not sure exactly why, but the season has felt sort of empty and kind of odd to me for the most part. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the ending of episode 4 and all the battles and fights we've seen so far, but other than that, a lot of it felt like filler and not in the usual good sense that the series provides. One main thing that I could recall that was anticlimactic was the reveal of what was behind the door Elle and Hopper were so desperately trying to get to. It was shown to be the character from season 2 who has powers like Eleven's, and honestly dude, I was pretty disappointed. Now maybe I'm the only one, but I barely remember season 2, mostly due to the fact that I think it's the worst season out of the show, and that was because of the unnecessary side plot that included that very same character. However, hold your horses, because I still enjoyed the majority of what this season had to offer. To start, I enjoyed seeing Eleven finally training to better her powers, but this time with the people she loves and cares about instead of at Hawking's lab. I also thought that the Demogorgon house attacks were very scary and brought back the vibe earlier seasons had when that's all we were worried about within the show, especially regarding the second one when they had prepared for it. It was really cool to see everyone have a substantial role in defeating it together. And speaking of the way they defeated it, the introduction of matching frequencies with that of the underground to track or communicate with individuals and Demogorgons was a pretty clever aspect to bring to the season, and allowed for everyone to be together somehow even if they were split by the overworld and the underground. But by far the scene that made me feel the most hyped I have for a while towards the show was at the very end of episode 4. The ending where Will's powers finally come into play to save all his friends truly saved this season for me and gave me hope that the rest to come will be peak from here on out. I mean, the montage of Will when he was younger and meeting Mike could make you shed a tear, and I actually believed that for a moment these characters were going to die. But then we get one of the most intense scenes in the show, with Will stopping all the Demogorgons in their tracks with all his power to prevent them from killing the people he loves. Now up until this point, I was getting really tired of Will's character, since after season 1 he really just became a background character who would occasionally alert the group of oncoming attacks. But this scene gave this dude so much aura that I actually think the guy is cool now, and dare I say, Will is now as powerful, if not more, than Eleven herself, which makes me extremely excited to see what comes next from him in the next 4 episodes of this season. All in all, I would have to give this season so far an 8 out of 10 with that crazy ending, and I have absolutely no idea how the rest of it will go. However, I do have some theories in mind. If you want to dive even deeper into these theories with exclusive videos, guaranteed replies, and your name featured at the end of every upload, you can become a channel member for just $2.99. It helps out a ton and keeps this content going. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and drop your own thoughts and theories in the comments down below. And if you want to keep the conversation going, hop into the Discord where we talk about all your favorite shows and media. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.